been managing. We haven't had to let anybody go or furlough anybody, so that's good news for us. At the same time, it's been very challenging because this has added a whole new element to our business. We've always done hazmat cleaning. We clean up trauma jobs, dead bodies, all kinds of weird stuff. So when this popped up, it kind of created an opportunity for us to jump into the coronavirus cleaning situation. And I have learned so much over the last month. It's kind of unbelievable that there are no rules or guidelines that have been set in place for something specific to this. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that with you guys, some of the stuff I've learned and haven't learned over the last month of learning how to do coronavirus cleaning. So the call today is going to be basically an industry update, stuff that I've been observing and learning, breakdown of the different types of cleaning companies we have in the group, what makes this all a little bit different, the difference between At Your Service and what we do. We're also going to have George Gross jump on for a little while and talk about supply chain management, what he's been seeing as far as accessing chemicals and cleaning products. Is Mike Senecal available? Hopefully Mike's on and jump on a little bit and just update us on the commercial HVAC element of this, because there is some of that to keeping your office and your workplace safe and clean by cleaning the AC and the duct system. And then we're going to have Gons jump on and talk a little bit about some of the vehicle sanitation that he's been doing. He got a really sweet setup to do that. So I'll jump right into it. COVID-19 versus coronavirus cleaning. This is something interesting. There is absolutely no product out there that has been approved for COVID-19 cleaning. Everything is approved for coronavirus. Coronavirus being a general term for all viruses in this particular strain. So we're all assuming that the products that we use for the conventional coronavirus works for this novel coronavirus. So it's an assumption. What we do know is that cleaning it is not very difficult. A lot of the products that we use are too aggressive or too strong for this particular purpose. If we were to use our regular antimicrobial for every job that we do for coronavirus cleaning, it would actually probably damage a lot of the soft surfaces and fragile furniture and things like that. So we have to be very careful that what we're using is not too aggressive. There's a lot of semantic play going on in the certification and training that they're having us do. For example, we're not allowed to use the word disinfection. We can't disinfect a property. We can sanitize it. We don't use pesticides. We use cleaning agents. All biocides, which are used in hospital cleanups and any type of biohazmat cleanup, we're going to use a biocide. And a biocide is a marketing word for pesticide. All cleaning products that we use that are biocides are, in fact, pesticides. So they can be very toxic and very dangerous. They can cause eyesight problems. They can cause lung issues. So there's been a lot of debate on what is the right product to use for this purpose. That's not so strong that it's going to be causing other health issues, but that is strong enough to serve the purpose that we need. And a lot of that comes down to soft versus hard surfaces. What's the right product to use in an office where there's carpeting and chairs and drapes and pictures versus a hospital room where everything's metal or plastic. Then there's also the wrinkle of food prep or any type of food. You can't fog 99% of this stuff if there's any type of food prep or food present in the property. So it's created a lot of issues for us as far as what is the right procedure. And when do you need us? When do you need a professional? So I want to kind of get into that a little bit. Before we do that, I just kind of wanted to share some statistics. Number one, because it looks official, it makes it look like I know what I'm talking about. And B, because I thought it was kind of interesting. But this is from the CDC. This is the very first projection that they put out on April 13th. And it kind of shows the national graph of where they project all this to go. This is the second one that came out on April 24th. shows that the projections were fairly accurate. And then the last one that came out on the 28th shows the projection through the middle of May. And it looks like we're about halfway on this curve. You know, so we're not, although we're in phase 1, opening back up in Florida, you know, obviously not South Florida, but Florida itself, we're starting to get the feeling that, hey, things are getting close to opening back up. But according to these graphs and a lot of the other stuff that's been put out there, we have another couple of weeks ahead of us yet before this thing plateaus. Florida, it's very similar. This is the death count. They were projecting initially somewhere in the 2,500 to 5,000 range. This is the second one they put out. Well, that's the national one. And then this is the final one that they just put out, and it's showing, again, the range somewhere in the 2,000, 1,500 to 2,000 range going over the next 2 weeks. So it looks like we have at least 2 more weeks of this. Current numbers being put out, assuming that these numbers are accurate and everything else. You know, we've been trying to project when is everything going to open back up? When is everyone going to go back to work? Because we're going to have another run on our resources. When we first went into shutdown the first couple of weeks, we were slammed. We were super busy. There was a lot of businesses trying to stay open. If anybody was sick at all, we were going in there and cleaning it. That slowly died down to the point now where we're doing it here and there, but it's so many folks are working from home. It just isn't a priority to them yet until they start going back to work, and then it's going to be serious. So what does that mean for us? It means we need to prepare for another run on resources. You know, the whole toilet paper thing is going to transfer over to other stuff, and George is going to talk about that too. As far as what do we need to go ahead and start stockpiling, assuming we can still get it, because I think it's going to get a little bit worse as far as the supply chain goes. It may not necessarily get a whole lot worse from people actually getting the virus standpoint, but as far as getting resources that we're used to having, I think it's going to get a little bit harder over the summer before it gets any easier. One thing I thought was interesting through a lot of the training that I've done is masks. You know, you walk around now, everybody's got masks on. I think it's interesting that no mask is 100% effective. You know, I always thought that our PPE, our respirators and our Tyvek suits and all the stuff that we wear, it protected us 100%. And it actually doesn't. Even in a full Tyvek suit with a full face respirator on, you're not 100% protected from this particular virus. So there's a couple different types of masks we always hear about. We have P100s, which are the full face respirators. This is what our guys have been using when we're going in and doing a full cleaning. It has replaceable cartridges, which are almost impossible to find now. Fortunately, we were able to stock up a little bit when this all got started, but this filters down to 99%. This also does chemicals. So when we're fogging products, you're going to have to wear something like this so it doesn't get in your eyes. And also it filters out those chemicals from you breathing them in. So P100s, this is the best thing you can get. Even it is not 100%. Next is the N95s. So this is a commercial N95, again, with the replaceable cartridges. The key here, and this is what makes it different from a mask like this. So this is also an N95. The difference is the fit test. So with a mask like this, when you get it, you actually go through a process of fit testing. And only then is it 95% effective. It is not effective if it is not sealed to your face correctly. This is also supposedly 95% effective. This one has a little valve on the front. Some of them have it, some of them don't. And all the valve does is just make it a little easier for you to breathe and to exhale. And it does make it a little bit better for coughing and sneezing. It's not forcing all the air around the edge of your face. So these are 95% effective when worn correctly. Surgical masks are 90% effective. And I've seen a lot of studies that show closer to 70 and 90, somewhere in there. And then just wearing a handkerchief or something over your face is about 50% effective. So what does that mean exactly? All masks are only tested down to 0.3 microns. So even the best masks out there, they only test these down to 0.3 microns. And the coronavirus can go down to 0.1 microns. So even with the best mask available, it is not 100% guaranteed to be effective against this. Maybe hard for you guys to see this screen. This is from the CDC's website. It was really small, so I tried to blow it up. But this middle number here is kind of the important one. So a cotton t-shirt is 50% filtration efficiency. Surgical mask is 89. You know, all this other stuff that you see people wearing on their face, it's 50 to 60% effective. The important part here is, and this is a quote from a scientist who's doing some study for them. She said, "I do not believe a mask would reduce transmission prior to being symptomatic because air will never choose a path with more resistance going through the mask. It will always go around the mask, seek the path of least resistance." So that's why fit testing is so important. This is the link to OSHA's fit testing guidelines. In our industry, we've always worn respirators. It's been a normal thing for us. So right away, there's a procedure we go through. I don't know why this is not opening up. Here we go. So it's quite an extensive procedure. You know, it goes through your facial hair, and you know, it's an actual test you have to go through to make sure that that mask fits correctly. Because only when that mask fits correctly is it working 99% efficiently, or 95%, depending on which one you're wearing. So it's almost a false sense of comfort with a lot of these masks. You know, you hear a lot of things about how, well, they prevent the spread by wearing the mask. You're not coughing and spreading that stuff around. But again, if you're wearing a mask and it's not sealed efficiently and you cough, it's going to be going right out the side. It's always going to seek the path of least resistance. So yeah, it will reduce the spread to a certain degree, but it's not foolproof. So I just thought that was interesting. Want everyone to know. Everyone's walking around with masks feeling like they're safe, and it doesn't actually do anything for you. So as I've gone through 2 training courses on this, and 3 or 4 different webinars on different products to use. And I think it's amazing what the CDC has come out with as far as guidelines for us to clean with. If you go to the CDC's website, this is their instructions on how to keep your house clean. And basically they say use diluted household bleach and spray that around your house. And on soft surfaces, just use soap and water. These are the most useless directions I've ever seen a professional organization release. I don't understand. Even for us as professional remediators and cleaners, there's really no guidelines. It's very free for all right now as far as what is the right procedures to go through. One thing that we do have is we have plenty of disinfectants to choose from. This is also this is from the EPA's website. This is all the cleaning products and what they're approved for. If you scroll down through this list, there's thousands of them. It'll say coronavirus for certain ones, and there's probably 70 to choose from that all work on the coronavirus. So there's plenty of approved products to use. So again, it comes down to why are professionals needed? Why would you need Mammoth Restoration to come into your office or your home and clean? And the answer is very simply, it's safety and liability concerns. All the jobs that we've gotten so far have been a business that wanted to stay open. They wanted their employees to come into work, but somebody was sick, whether they tested positive or they were waiting for the results, and they wanted to open that office back up. So again, PPE is vital. We cannot 100% count on PPE, which is the main thing we learned from this. So there's some things that we need to do before we start to reduce that risk a little bit more, mainly air scrubbing, changing out AC filters, creating negative pressure inside of that zone to kind of suck a lot of that air out. So there's nothing airborne when we're entering the property. This is basically the strategy. Preventing cross-contamination and the spread is really the whole goal here. So basically we're wearing protective gear, and we're going in and cleaning contaminated areas where somebody who either tested positive or suspected to be positive has contaminated a workspace, which basically consists of touch point cleaning and fogging. And there's a lot of discussion right now about, well, what's better, touch point cleaning, physical wiping, or fogging? And the answer to that is both. You have to do both. You can't do only one. If you only go in and fog, that fogging agent is only going to be effective for so long. You're not going to hit certain points. If there's already dirt and oils and buildups, that antiviral is not going to be effective at all. So you do have to do some pre-cleaning ahead of time. And we're going to get a little bit more in depth into when can your janitor do it, when can a cleaning company do it, when do you need full-blown hazmat suits. So the cleaning process is actually fairly straightforward. First things first is we got to identify the cleaning plan. So a business calls in. We've been doing a lot for construction companies, larger construction companies. They seem to be very busy right now trying to get a lot of these projects done while nobody's in the building. They say, hey, we have a job site. Our project manager tested positive. He went to these 3 buildings. We would identify exactly what they need. Depending on what's inside those buildings, is going to depend on what type of products we're going to use and what type of procedures we're going to use. Every situation is a little bit different. So we need to identify exactly what that particular business needs, what time of day we're allowed to do this, if we can do it when people are around versus when they're not, so on and so forth. Then we suit up. One of the challenges we've had to do a lot of training with our guys on is we don't know what we're getting ourselves into until we get suited up and get inside the building. We're not having conversations with the customer out in the parking lot, without our masks and our suit on. So basically our guys are not interacting with anybody once they get there. Everything's already been dealt with before we even get there. There's no paperwork getting signed, none of that. It's all been dealt with digitally. We want to make sure we're in there doing our job and we're not interacting with anybody. Again, first thing we're going to do usually, and it's not on here, is go in and just make sure either the AC is shut off or we've created some type of negative pressure. So we've reduced that 1% risk that our PPE is not working. Then we're going to wipe down touch points, doorknobs, computer keyboards, toilet handles, soap dispensers, anything people are going to touch or interact with, the workspace of anybody who has tested positive, lunchrooms, coffee makers, anything people are touching is going to get physically wiped down. Once that's done, then we fog with an antiviral fog, which will be determined based on what we're doing, where we're doing it at. And then one of the key things here to the whole cleaning, whether you're doing this yourself or whether a professional is doing it, is the appropriate kill time. If you were to go spray Lysol on your countertop and wipe it off immediately, it's not going to actually do very much. Usually, depending on the product, and I think Lysol it's either 1 minute or 3 minutes, it needs to sit for at least 1 minute. It needs 1 minute of contact time for it to be effective. So the same thing when we're fogging. We'll go through with a digital thermal camera like this, and we'll go around and make sure surfaces are still wet after 3 minutes, or some of our products are up to 10 minutes, and make sure that it's had enough contact time to actually do its job. Some of the other things that go into this are changing out AC filters. If you can get a MERV 13 or higher filter, it actually can filter down and help with some of this coronavirus stuff, supposedly. Ozone is also effective. Ozone is kind of old school. We don't use ozone too much anymore. Now everyone uses hydroxyls. It's kind of cool to see the ozone come back. We actually are using ozone to clean our PPE. We clean our face masks and our Tyvek suits if we were to run low. We have plenty right now, but if we were ozone. Back behind me over here, we have a little chamber. You guys can see that or not. Little wooden vault that we put our stuff in. We ozone it overnight, and it's able to kill coronavirus without actually using any chemicals. And then duct cleaning can be important as well. So it's a little bit of maintenance that just goes along with this. It's part of any regular cleaning. some pictures of the guys in action, getting suited up outside. So they actually usually are wearing double gloves, taped in. Every once in a while, we'll rip a suit. If you see the guy on the left, he's got some red underneath his armpit. It's probably where the suit tore a little bit. But I got to tell you, walking around in this stuff, walking in and out of offices, it really gets people's attention. Everyone knows you're there, that's for sure. You know, it's basically just detailed cleaning in a full suit. Nothing special to it. So fogging is really the key here. The first 2 weeks after this, I guess we went on lockdown and we started trying to figure out what was going to happen. There's a huge run on cleaning products and foggers. You probably can't even find a fogger now. I was lucky enough to get a new Mac Daddy fogger, which is really awesome. There's a lot of cool technology that's come out recently. But after going through a couple training classes, we all learned what we're really being sold. A lot of these products that are being advertised as being safe and effective are not so safe, and they're not EPA approved to be fogged. So there's a lot of snake oil going on out there. There's a lot of internet advertising, the companies saying they can come in and do this and do that, and fog this and fog that. And the first thing everyone needs to ask is, well, what are you fogging? What are you spraying around in here? Request, it's called an MSDS sheet, Material Safety Data Sheet, and that will contain everything that's in it and how it should be applied. I am amazed at some of the stuff I'm seeing on Facebook, social media, even Palm Beach Post, of some of my competitors doing this in daycare centers and Goodwill, and they're not doing it appropriately. They're not wearing proper PPE. They're fogging with news reporters in their room, and it's just kind of crazy. You know, there's going to be some lawsuits going on about people fogging chemicals around that they shouldn't have been. So the question is, what's in the fogger? And it varies. I took a class where they tried to convince us that we should use 1% diluted bleach to fog because it was the safest thing to use. It left no residue. And if you dilute it down enough, it won't damage soft surfaces, so carpeting and couches and all that. So they want me to send my guys out there with bleach to go fog around people's places and not ruin their stuff. And I couldn't help but laugh because that's just absolutely insane. There are products that are safe, that are green, but they're expensive and they're hard to find. So, you know, there's a product for every situation and every application. Unfortunately, a lot of my competition doesn't really care, and they're just going out there fogging the cheapest stuff they can find, and they're charging people a lot of money to do it, and it's a total waste. So, you know, just warn people you see out there, just because someone's spraying something out of a fogger doesn't mean it's actually the right product to be used. We have stuff for people that are sensitive to chemicals. We have stuff that has no odor. We have stuff that's, you know, that's actually an encapsulant that will actually seal. Once they are, they're going to be a complete game changer for our industry and for everyone, and it's pretty exciting. So one of the few good things coming out of this situation is the industry seems to be kind of making a jump and safer, cleaner products. Some additional cleaning techniques that I've learned about through this whole endeavor here. Hydroxyl. Some of you might be familiar with hydroxyls. We use those for deodorization. They are not very effective against coronavirus because they require air movement to be effective. And using air movement just stirs up any coronavirus contamination. So the process of using it actually spreads stuff around. So hydroxyls are not great for this. A cool thing that I'm starting to get into, I haven't done it yet, but I've ordered some and I'm going to start trying this out, is chlorine dioxide gas. It's little tablets that you get. They put them in the AC intake, and it actually it sanitizes the entire space and leaves zero residue. You can't be there. It's toxic while it's going on, but it dissipates in 15 minutes, and it's It's actually the greenest thing you can do. It's just not safe while it's actually happening. And it actually sanitizes your AC and ducts and everything in the whole process. It's not going to clean them. You still need to get your ducts cleaned for dirt and dust, but it's cleaning any organic material is killed. It's also great for situations where you can't fog, computer rooms, electronics, stuff where you can't just be spraying chemicals around. It's great for those situations too. It's not ideal for large commercial jobs. So it's really for smaller spaces, but it's a really cool new technology that people are starting to take advantage of. I already mentioned diluted bleach, diluted alcohol, citric acid, hydrogen peroxide are all products that if there was a run on disinfectants and none of us could get Lysol or bleach or any of that type of stuff, we could technically use alcohol or citric acid mixed correctly. And probably the most exciting thing, and George actually emailed me something about this yesterday. He's the first person who's mentioned it to me outside of my group, is electrostatic coatings. I think this is going to be something that's going to roll out in the next 90 days. That's going to change the game. And these are actually products that we could fog, we could apply, and they would work for 90 to 180 days. They would continue to clean. It's a product that forms a bond to soft and hard surfaces. Right now, none of them are EPA approved for this particular purpose. However, they are very commonly used in certain commercial industries. So they're widely used in a couple industries. They're just not commonly used on the mass market. It's almost impossible to get your hands on any right now. It's very, very hard. But I think they're ramping that whole industry up, and I would expect to see some of that come out here soon. And that would be very helpful for us, because in all honesty, if I were to come out and clean your office for you right now, the moment somebody came back in to that building, I can't guarantee that it worked. As soon as it starts being used again, and anybody who could be cross-contaminating that space again enters it, you need to re-clean it. So with an electrostatic coating that continued to work, you get a little bit more bang for your buck. But again, there is a little bit of, this is not approved. This is not certified. No one's really sure how effective it is. And it's one of those things where you can't guarantee it's going to work 180 days. It may work for 30 days. It may work for a week. Those are the things. There's no way of really testing. We have tests we could use to see is there mold here? Are these mold levels abnormal? It's not the same thing with coronavirus. You can't really tell where it is and test for it specifically on surfaces. So a little bit of unknown. And there is a lot of snake oil going on right now. And, I just wanted to warn you guys of that and bring it to your attention. A couple things just about us. We're doing complimentary cleaning for any first responders or healthcare workers who've tested positive. We want to make sure that their house is safe for the rest of their family, for their friends. They don't have to worry about, anything other than recovering. So if anybody knows any first responders or healthcare workers that may be affected by this, we'd be happy to help them out. We're also doing a couple churches as well. So if any of you guys, have a church that needs some cleaning before they open back up in a few weeks, we'd be happy to go do that for them too. Part of our PPP Grateful Give Back. Sorry. And I just wanted to remind everybody, we do other stuff too. We're still fairly busy with water and mold, but we do water damage remediation, dry outs, small leaks, big leaks, it doesn't make a difference. If you don't dry it correctly, you're gonna get mold. Sewage, bio, fire, deodorization, demo, so on and so forth. All right, so with that being said, does anybody have any questions for me before I move on to Jim? Anybody have any questions?
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Hey,
Robert here, reporting from Lake Worth Beach. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hey, I had a quick question. You mentioned that there's a possibility there's going to be a shortage of products in the months ahead. Can you mention some of those? Anything? What do you think?
Well, George is going to go into that in a lot more detail. He's got his finger on the pulse of that. In my industry, there's the main things that we've been worried about were were actual disinfectants, which we actually have plenty of and we can still get. So I'm not so worried about the chemical part right now. Tyvek suits, latex gloves are impossible to find right now. We stocked up on those, but you can't get anything new. Latex gloves are soon to follow. I expect a shortage of those here pretty soon. And then obviously the masks. No one can find masks anywhere. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And most of this stuff comes from China. So between them being shut down and shipping being shut down and everything going on, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better until we can start manufacturing some of this stuff here. So those are the things in my world that I'm seeing shortages of. And then weird stuff, you know, our zippers that we use for containment. We ran out of spray adhesive for a week or two. And just weird things, whether it's the shipping was shut down or the manufacturer was shut down. You know, there's just a lot of weird supply chain hiccups, and usually they resolve themselves within a week or two. But I think the masks are good and the safety equipment. I don't see that changing in the next few months.
Thank you.
Hey, Nate?
Yeah.
You've got a question out there. Can you discuss disinfection versus sanitation?
Disinfection versus sanitation.
Sanitizing, right.
So disinfecting is when you're actually cleaning everything. Every organic living piece of material is destroyed. So ozone would be a good way of disinfecting because it kills everything. Or you could also use heat. If you were to heat something to, you know, a certain temperature, it would kill every living organism. There are certain chemicals that also do that. Sanitizing is different. Sanitizing is cleaning. It's cleaning the outside surface. It's not 100%. It's really semantics, to be honest with you. We disinfect. Saying I can disinfect something implies I can 100% kill every organic material, and that's not possible. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is that the right answer, George?
Yeah.
More to expand on that?
Yeah, no, that's true. Nate, also, the back screen that you have showing the EPA registration number, can you bring that up?
This?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I want everybody to look at the left side of the screen where it says EPA registration number. What you'll notice as Nate scrolls through there, there's a lot of the first 4 digits that are the same on many manufacturers' chemicals. Primarily, that's because there's only 3 major disinfectant manufacturers in the world. Okay, so when Nate was alluding to the fact that there could be disinfection shortages, he's absolutely correct because the raw material, okay, comes from predominantly 3 manufacturers. And those first 4 digits indicate who the manufacturer is. Okay, so any EPA registered item, when you look at it, as long as it hasn't been changed to the point where a company has taken that formula and then made something, changed something about it themselves, where they've got their own EPA registration number and paid the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so, then that's pretty much the case. But, and I'll go into this in a little bit, but that is primarily why this is a worldwide, and I hope nobody takes offense to this, but in my opinion, plandemic, not a pandemic. I really feel that this is something that's been thrust upon us. But, you know, again, with only minimal manufacturers in terms of the raw materials of many things, you know, this is what's caused a lot of the shortages. And so I'm done until I get to mine.
Thanks, George. Yeah, you guys can see here, these 3 products are all approved for human coronavirus. And notice the contact time on these 3. So for this product, there's a 10-minute contact time. So after you fog, you got to fog enough of it that for 10 minutes, it's going to sit on the surface. So.
And we all, and I think any homeowner usually generally makes that mistake. They're using a Lysol or a Clorox wipe, and they wipe a surface and then go to another surface, cross-contaminate using the same wipe. But more importantly, they'll spray disinfectant on an area and then wipe it up. And as you can see, the contact times range anywhere from bleach at 30 seconds to up to 10 minutes on most disinfectants. And the one thing I do want to commend Nate on is pointing out the fact that the CDC and the EPA, okay, specifically the EPA has said that a lot of these items are effective or approved for human coronavirus. Okay, nothing has been tested for COVID-19. So, you know, the coronavirus, as we call it, is a generalized term. So,
yeah, and the good news is it's actually really easy to kill.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Relatively speaking, relative to a mold spore or other types of stuff, it's actually, you could use almost anything to kill it in the right context. The key is to not get yourself sick in the process of cleaning it. So, you know, I'm sure most of you are like me, and we're having to wipe our groceries down and everything as soon as we get home. But if you spray a couple squirts of Lysol on a rag and you wipe that down, by the time you get to the third item you're wiping, it's not doing anything anymore. So, you know, I think a lot of us, we're doing stuff because we want to feel like we're doing something, and it's not actually doing what we think it is. And it's time to kind of reevaluate from the mask we're wearing to wearing the same gloves all day to, you know, how we're cleaning our house and our office. With all we have going on today and all the people jumping on it, it's kind of hard to do it. I would like to, in the future, maybe put together another type of call, maybe not on Tuesday offline. That would be about maybe putting together some safety and procedure plans for coming back to work, some, you know, some cleaning procedures for your office. And this is something George is going to talk about. Where are you going to get the products to do that? You know, I don't know if anyone's seen any Lysol wipes out there or Clorox wipes lately, but they're nowhere to be found. So what are we going to use when we come back to work and we have to clean our office every day? And how are we going to enforce safety guidelines?
George has got them.
Nate, you've got questions from Ray, Gary, and Bill Price is raising his hand.
I gotta find out how to. Are these in the comments, or are they just?
Ray has asked if the handheld ultraviolet lights are effective.
Handheld ultraviolet lights? No. They can, but it's not very effective.
Gary is asking how to disinfect the inner workings of computers, keyboards, etc., with a fan inside running nonstop, drawing air across those parts. What do you recommend?
I would use an aerosolized Lysol type product, something that you can fog and just use a little bit of it. I wouldn't use too much. Coronavirus is not going to survive on the inside of your computer for very long. Another thing is sunlight kills coronavirus, as Trump told everyone a few weeks ago. Simply setting stuff out in the sun for 10, 15 minutes would sanitize it as well. Not that that's what you should do to the inside of your computer. I don't think you should really worry about it. But if you needed to, an aerosolized Lysol spray can would probably be the best option. Just be careful.
So you're saying go to the beach and work there?
What?
So we can go to the beach and work there?
Absolutely.
Bill, I'm sorry, Bill?
Yeah, which stocks have you bought, Nate?
Which stocks have I bought? I don't buy stocks, unfortunately.
That's a question for Val. That's a question for Val. Come on, Val.
I need to get into that, though.
Okay, George, how about those three manufacturers you mentioned?
The three manufacturers, what, Lysol, which ones are we talking about now?
The ones that are on the list, EPA list here.
Okay, well, again, the three manufacturers, those are the raw material manufacturers. They produce predominantly the world's disinfectant raw material. It's the raw material that goes into most disinfectants. And that's why the EPA will approve many of them, because the actual product has already been approved. So if you're looking at the EPA registration number, the first four digits generally is the manufacturer of the raw material, not SC Johnson, not Clorox. Okay, it's the raw material coming from the manufacturer. The second couple of digits will tell you pretty much size and whether it's a wipe or whether it's something that's mixed to, you know, a ½ ounce per gallon or 1 ounce per gallon. And then what you're not seeing there is the ending digits. There's a dash after the first set of numbers. And that would denote who the manufacturer that's selling the product is, which could be SC Johnson, it could be Lysol, it could be, you know, many manufacturers that you guys would recognize, Procter and Gamble, et cetera. So these are the things that people have to realize when the raw material that most manufacturers use in the world, okay, is being consumed by everybody, there's a problem. Okay, and I want to read something. It's not an internal document, and Nate and I talked about this, and this is kind of what people are up against. This came to me from Clorox last week. Says this letter is to inform you that we've received news this week that several positive COVID-19 cases have been identified at our production sites. These production sites produce our Clorox disinfectant, Clorox healthcare spore defense, Clorox healthcare bleach germicidal cleaners, and Clorox healthcare fusion, which is one of their new products. As a result, the near-term availability of these items will be impacted. Well, that's what their way of saying it's going to be a while. Okay.
Wow.
And that's Clorox. And this is, you know, one of the leading manufacturers for materials that disinfect and sanitize, and their plants that manufacture those products and produce those products had to be shut down to be cleaned, which is interesting.
All right. Well, sorry to jump in, guys. We're running a little behind, so let me turn it over to Jim with At Your Service, so he could talk a little bit about what he's been up to with the janitorial side of things. You know, the easiest way to explain the difference between Jim and I is if you need to put a suit on, if someone's tested positive, that's when you would need us. If it's maintenance, preventative maintenance cleaning, regular cleaning, that's kind of where Jim comes in. So Jim, you ready, bud?
Yeah, thanks, Nat. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're ready. I mean, it's not fun anymore. I'm ready to go back to normal. But in the meantime, I have to say that we've been somewhat lucky compared to many other industries in that, yes, some of our clients did go from 5 days a week to 1 or 2 days a week. A couple of them have actually closed down completely until further notice. On the other hand, we've gotten a lot of calls for new people and referrals, and even some existing clients for additional cleaning. Some of what I've noticed a pattern is that it's not just a problem that we have with a virus or a pandemic. The information could be almost as big of a problem. Not just to people, but to your budgets as well. I've had to field off or explain situations where somebody wanted us to go by and disinfect every floor, every doorknob in 14 hallways every 20 minutes and have one person do it because their budget couldn't afford more. Well, there's some practicalities. So first is, how good is it to just go by and wipe a doorknob, as Nate mentioned a few minutes ago, and just keep on going in a mad rush to get to the 14th floor so you could start back down again, plus elevated time and all that. So there's some, you know, there are opportunities here to make a killing and do a service, but also there's a practicality to it. And we've had to field some of that. Now there are other legitimate uses like Ed Morse. Thank you, we appreciate it. Just filling in, supplementing their staff. Yes, some legitimate uses we have like that. But yeah, there's a lot of panic out there. And then there are also the calls like, oh, I saw on TV some guys going with a machine going through buses and trains. Oh, we saw a jet engine going down the street. Can you come and fog all our hallways and do the same thing? Come on, is that practical? So that's something to consider. Another thing, and Nate just mentioned, is you know, there are different levels of service that you may need. Preventive janitorial type service, yes, we're there for you. If somebody has had coronavirus and you're worried about that workplace before you can have the rest of the office, rest of the staff come in, yeah, I would suggest that you call Nate. Now there's a difference. He's invested a lot for himself and his crew and his equipment in training and equipment. He's invested a lot more than I. His expertise is far beyond ours. He's far more of a specialist. And the pricing also is going to reflect accordingly. So we also, you can't have a janitor go and mitigate an environment where somebody that's tested positive and has been walking around the office has already done. Yes, that's Nate. You get what you pay for. So that's something to keep in mind. And actually, we've worked together on some of these discussions, and he's helped me out quite a bit. The other challenge that we've had in our industry is, before, supply chain, getting stuff. We've been really lucky with our relationship. South Florida Janitorial so far has delivered everything we've needed, but I'm a little worried because George is talking about the gloves. I know right now, you go anywhere else and you go in a store, wait online, and you come out with one box of gloves. And in an industry like mine, you don't buy a box, you buy cases. That is a challenge. One other thing about the snake oil that Nat talked to, I give credit to Linda for this one. We're desperate for masks. So we got our hands on some of these Chinese masks. Some come blue, some come yellow. You see that a lot throughout. And what we've done is we put a mask right up in front of a glass window and we faked a sneeze. First we did it without the mask, then we did it with a mask. I couldn't tell the difference. Those little blue Chinese masks, it's just to look good. And then we did it with a cloth and it covered a lot more. Yes, as I think Nat's slide showed that it was 50%. There's a lot more. But my point is, be careful because there's a difference between doing the job to stay safe for your health, and then there are jobs just to look good. And well, we have a lot of lawyers in a group as well, so you understand. Litigation is part of human nature in our culture. So yeah, we do have to also give a presence that we care, and that, but there's a limit and there's a balance as well between looking good and doing the right job. I don't want to overdo in terms of stating that, but you have to be careful. I mean, you have to do that balance. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I kind of want to give more time to George as well, because he really does have some.
Anybody have any questions for Jim? Good stuff. Just to throw this out there, because I didn't mention it, if anyone's curious on how much it costs to do full-blown coronavirus cleaning, it varies greatly. It's anywhere from 25 cents a square foot to 50 cents a square foot is a fair rate. There's a lot of companies out there charging $1 plus a square foot. And that would be to wipe down and to fog. So, and then there's some other stuff going into that, the PPE and all that. So it's not cheap. You know, if you have a 10,000 square foot facility, it's going to cost a couple grand. So it's not cheap. All right, any questions for Jim before we move on to George? All right, George, it's all you, buddy. Hey, just tell me when to change slides.
Okay, we'll do. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank both Jim and Nate, obviously, with what they've gone over, and Nate especially to bring up some of the issues in our industry when it comes to disinfect and sanitizing things and the misconceptions. As far as the supply chain update, right now we've got a large supply of toilet tissue, the kitchen towels, roll towels, facial tissue, hand soaps, and bleach. Obviously, being also a pool supply company, we've got literally thousands and thousands of gallons of bleach in our silos here, which would be pool bleach. But again, early on in this situation, a few things were missing. Toilet tissue, for the first time, you know, in my 36 years, have I ever had a truck of toilet tissue stopped from being sent to me. I mean, and it got to the point where we were literally cutting cases in half. And Jim, I think you might have been, a few of the members actually got half cases of toilet tissue because we were allocating. Obviously, that's been resolved. So toilet tissue is not an issue. So as far as the large supply of items, there's nothing to worry about as far as that's concerned for any of our members, obviously, and certainly Jim for you. Nate, switch the slide. These are the items that we have moderate supply of. One, procedural face masks. And you know, the fact that you have to wear a face mask, for instance, to get into a store. Some stores won't allow you to. So a procedural face mask resolves that issue. The procedural face mask also does an effective job when it comes to the size of the particle that certainly the coronavirus or the COVID-19 virus varies in terms of size. So procedural face masks, moderate supply. It's went from 0 to a little bit more, and now it could get very, very sparse or very scarce again. There is a company in the United States that plans to open in Tennessee that is going to be American-made procedural masks, American-made N95 masks without the respirator. Okay. Onto concentrated disinfectants. Again, we've positioned ourselves with multiple manufacturers to have disinfectants here because we've got a lot of customers that rely on us from gym to school systems. Okay. And so the concentrated disinfectants are the ones that you would mix 1 ounce per gallon, 1/2 ounce per gallon, 2 ounces per gallon, et cetera, depending on the manufacturer's recommendation. I do want to stop and say one thing about both the RTU disinfectants, like the Clorox wipes or the ready-to-use sprays, and the concentrated disinfectants. Please read the instructions, because it does tell you in order to kill these viruses or to sanitize, it's going to say leave on the surface for 1 minute wet, or leave on the surface for 8 or 10 minutes wet. And Nate went over this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. That's what kills the bugs. And again, you've got it in your hand, read it, okay? The RTU disinfectants are spray disinfectants that are ready to use, okay? And a Lysol style can, and something like this would be a ready to use. Okay, Lysol spray. I want to bring up one thing that Nate said. If you're going to spray the inside of your computer, make sure it's off. But those were very difficult to get. Again, we've got a decent supply of them from multiple manufacturers, and most of them are aerosol. A few are ready to use sprays, which would be in a trigger sprayer. Okay. Nate, change slide. Okay, this is where it's becoming an issue. There's a very limited supply of most alcohol hand sanitizers. We deal with Gojo, which is, everybody would know as Purell, obviously with Clorox, and you know, Clorox hand sanitizers look like that. Okay, alcohol 70%. Very, very difficult to get. SC Johnson Debs, which you know, most of you are familiar with the automatic hand sanitizers. One is behind me over here, where you put your hand underneath and it sprays with foam hand sanitizer in your hand. Literally impossible right now to get. I've had orders in with all 3 of those companies going back to February. Okay. And so as we get them in, we're not getting in the half trucks or the truckloads that we ordered. We're getting in a half a pallet. And I can tell you with some of the back orders that we have for a lot of our members even, it goes fast. So alcohol hand sanitizer is very difficult. Gloves, and this is important, and Nate and Jim, hate to be the bearer of bad news. We deal with probably 5 or 6 of the major manufacturers or the major suppliers of gloves. Most gloves come from Malaysia and China, okay? And with Malaysia shut down, everything is China. There is nothing on the water with any of the manufacturers, which means nothing is on its way over, okay? all of our suppliers literally have zero, okay, gloves. And so we have been begging and pleading and getting small amounts of gloves in. Nitrile, obviously, Jim, you use nitrile in your industry as well, especially for cleaning. But latex and vinyl, all three of those are becoming very scarce. So when I see, or I, with being in the business as long as we have, there are people, suppliers that call me and say, I just got an order in. How many do you want? I can give you, 50 cases. Well, 50 cases is great. Thank you very much. But I usually buy 500 cases of each size. Okay. And Jim is right when he said, it's not the box. Most of our customers buy by the case. The N95 masks, again, very, very difficult to get. The one Nate showed you with the respirator on the front, those, are preferable because it's easier to breathe. But most N95 masks right now that are coming in that you can get your hands on, a lot of those are the ones that are certified by NIOSH. Those are coming in under the KN95, which is coming from China. I'm not going to say any more about that because I've got my own feelings about what comes out of China. And then I learned how to spell. That last disinfecting, disinfecting wipes, Lysol, Clorox, etc., Steridol, whatnot. Very, very, very difficult to get again because it's more of a Lysol disinfectant wipes are more of a retail item as well, and they're in short supply because of the misconception and certainly the industry, having not been really ready for something as interesting as what we've been through. So I don't expect we've got now, I've got hundreds and hundreds of cases, and that's not just the bottles. I'm talking cases of wipes on back order with manufacturers, Lysol, Clorox, et cetera. I don't expect to see them for some time. What I just showed you before was that case of Lysol wipes, okay? That was an order of 500 cases that I got three, okay? That's my allocation. This is ridiculous. So these items here, be very aware. If you can find some things, get them. But understand that, especially with the disinfecting wipes, okay, don't be misled by what it can do for you, okay? Nate brought up the fact that you, or Jim, one of the two, you wipe this surface down, you wipe that surface down. And by the time you get to the third surface, it's not effective anymore and you've cross-contaminated, okay? So be very aware, read the instructions on there when you do get a hold of it, okay? So as far as the limited allocation of products, I foresee that easing up somewhere next year. That is being, it's a joke, guys. I do see it easing up more towards September, October, November, depending what happens in June and July, okay? So now, ideas for returning to work, the new normal. These are items that our manufacturers are now, Daymark is a manufacturer of safety supplies and things like that. And now they're selling the handheld, well, I don't have mine in here, the handheld temperature and what do you call it, thermometers. And we temp every one of our employees as soon as they hit the time clock, okay? So if it's not, they're not normal in temperature, we have to send them home. So
can I jump in real quick, George? First instinct with people see this sometimes is like, oh, this is overkill. I'm not going to be scanning every one of my employees' foreheads when they come in. That's crazy. Let me tell you what's crazy is spending $5,000 to clean your office because you didn't do this. So it seems like a crazy extra precaution, but from a liability perspective, this could save your butt. And from preventing, mass cleaning, it could help there as well. Another little thing, we have these thermal cameras. Any of you guys that may have a thermal camera, if you have a good one, it has to be good, you could use these as well. And these will give you a baseline temperature of someone's forehead without having to actually touch them. So just want to throw that in there.
Fantastic. Next slide. And these are just some, this is kind of interesting. These are basically guards, and I've got to move Jim out of my way here. Okay, the sneeze guards. And I noticed that Scott had put something out yesterday that that they're actually manufacturing some sneeze guards, and I think that's awesome. So again,
he had a couple products that were similar to something you have.
Exactly.
Everyone knows that Scott's doing customized versions of this and the signs that are coming up.
And I think that's awesome. So if you're interested in those sneeze guards, see Scott. Well, he's got the supply of the acrylic. Okay. And you know, if that runs out, then we can certainly move to what I have now access to. And this is something, again, we brought up, and we were seeing a lot of education going this way, is different ways to open doors. And literally because of the touch surfaces. Okay. And I think it's a little overkill, but I'm just bringing up some things that have come across my desk over the past week or two, because manufacturers are trying to come up with and reinvent themselves, you know, with different ideas. And thanks for moving it along. And then also, you know, this basically, what do you call it? Social distancing matting. Okay. You know, these are cleanable. Those are rubber mats right there. And I really don't call them a mat. I mean, it's just a positioning tool. You know, whether you're using blue tape or whether you're using the signage, and also, again, Scott brought up in his blast yesterday that he's manufacturing, has got the ability to do this. So once again, again, let's support our member, the power of execs. Okay. And I'm talking about supporting Scott because he's got the products, he's local, and you know, in the event that that doesn't work out, then we can go ahead and bring some of these in. So again, I just wanted to go over those things. Any questions for me?
We've got 3 questions for the good of the order. Perhaps they're for Nate. Lee Fossett's asking about best daily cleaning practices for computer keyboards.
Very simple. Have an improved cleaning product like a Lysol, a bleach, some type of product that is approved for coronavirus. Read the label, know the contact time that it's necessary, and follow those directions. Just spray your keyboard down, let it sit for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or however long the label says, and then wipe it. And that's all there is to it.
If I can jump in there real quick, Nate, what we do before we leave, we take a Lysol or something, a hospital spray disinfectant designed for disinfecting. We spray every touch surface, every mouse, every keyboard, every phone system, every handle, every light switch, and then we leave. Okay, so even in the kitchen, every touch surface, the handle on the refrigerator, everything is sprayed before we leave. It's obviously wet, and we don't have to worry about wiping it down, and we leave. You know, so that will kill.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough to have the aerosolized version, which are very hard to get now, you don't even have to wipe; just spray it.
Right. That's my point. Yeah. So for the time being, we have those.
Val's asking, once you disinfect a building, how often or if do you need to re-clean it?
It's at risk, you know. So if somebody else tests positive, then you would have to clean it again. What we do is for when someone tests positive, it's confirmed that they were they're at that job site within a week, we'll clean it. If they don't return and nobody else tests positive or shows signs, it doesn't need to be cleaned again by a professional. It just needs regular maintenance.
George, a couple of people are asking about thermometers, if you'll sell them to execs members and how much they are and what minimum quantity.
I am going to get that information because that information just came to me yesterday. So I'm waiting for the manufacturer to, and yes, I will sell them to them, of course. So no issues there. Okay. So I'll send it out to execs to you, and you can put it out as a blast to everybody. Okay, Allison?
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Can you see Gary's question on the screen? We've begun using.
Yeah, I finally figured out how to see these comments. So Gary says we've been using the infrared from FLIR at large job sites to check every construction worker. If you're over 100.4, you're turned away that day. That's awesome. I mean,
yep.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. That's awesome.
All right, any other questions for George? Is Mike Senecal on the call by chance? I didn't confirm with him yesterday.
Hey, George, if I can, Carmine, if you could just, when you can get that thermometer information and also those foot things to open the doors, maybe, I'd like to see some information on that and see
Oh,
those.
I'll get it over to you today.
Thank you.
that reminded me, George, do you have plenty of booties? Like work booties? Is this something you supply?
I can get those, I think. That's not something, we do have a supplier for those, but
I haven't noticed yet, but I have a feeling these may be hard to come by too.
they are, especially for your industry.
Anybody going into anyone's houses already knows you got to have a mask on, you got to have gloves on, you got to have booties on. These customers are like, you don't have it on, they look at you sideways. So we used to feel like we were unique for wearing these. Now everyone has to wear them. So that may be another shortage coming up. All right, Gons, you're up, buddy. Tell us about your vehicle cleaning.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning, guys.
Again. Yeah, what we're doing is basically using an ozone machine that we purchased actually a couple of years ago. And this is what the machine looks like. Let me see right here. And on the box, it claims and the directions that in 20 minutes, it's all you need to clean and basically get rid of any virus or any odors in the vehicle. So what we're willing to do is run the machine for at least 20 to 30 minutes with the AC going on, so it gets into all the duct AC ducts in the vehicle, and then another maybe 30 minutes, turn off the vehicle and just let it run for another 30 minutes. So it gets a whole hour, which is 3 times what the recommended time is for the machine. Then in addition to that, just vacuum the car, wipe it down, give it a pressure wash on the outside, and then we park the vehicle outside the office and the delivery area. And then finally, once the next person who's going to get in the car is going to be the customer. So we use something similar to this. Actually, we've been using this product to just wipe down the touch areas. So once the customer comes in, everything is nice and clean and ready to go. That's what we're offering. We're actually doing something very similar to what Nate mentioned before. It is free to anyone in the front line, medical, hospital workers, first responders. So as long as they come in and they show they're active, there's no charge to them.
Just want to mention the technology that this uses ozone is the absolute best stuff you could use. It's not going to leave toxic chemical residue, and it also removes odor. So if your car smells weird, this will work as well. So I think it's a very good price too. It's very reasonable. And I'm assuming this would mainly be for preventative maintenance. I'm not sure how someone would get a vehicle there if it was already contaminated. I was trying to think about that, Gons. You can make this more of a mobile thing too. But I have gotten a bunch of calls about this, delivery driver tested positive, fleet maintenance guys, any vehicle type stuff, it's important. So whether or not someone tests positive or not, you guys may want to think about maybe doing this once a month, just as a safety precaution, and, just add it to that liability folder, things that you're doing to prevent spread. Any questions for Gons?
No, but here's a shameless plug. We went ahead and did our whole inventory with all that used cars. So if anyone does buy a car from us right now, it is decontaminated and all that. We have similar products. So we went ahead and just did our whole pre-owned inventory, or in the process of doing it all at all our stores as well. So
that's awesome. And that's a good point. Everyone, and I'm sure you have, everyone should be thinking about what is the new normal. What's going to be the new requirement? Even if it sounds over the top and ridiculous now, nothing that has happened over the last 2 months has not been ridiculous or weird. This was a year ago. So I'm getting a lot of strange calls. So I get calls from a moving company saying, hey, we're thinking about decontaminating our trailer after every move. Every industry is starting to think about how can we either A, tap into a new part of this industry, or B, protect ourselves. So there could be a lot of opportunities for all of us to kind of tap into new things that we weren't thinking about before, i.e. vehicle sanitation. So just think about that. Think about ways that we could help each other. Yeah.
Another point here, and you mentioned heat. It kills the coronavirus. You know, and historically, we always like to park the vehicle in a shaded area. But now with the summer approaching, leave that car out there in the middle of the parking lot, stay away from the shade, let it get heat up to 110, 130, whatever it is. It gets in the middle of the summer, maybe 150 inside your vehicle. I'm not a scientist, but I got a feeling that's going to kill anything you have inside that vehicle once that heats up to about 130, 140 degrees.
Between the UV and the heat, definitely. That's a good point.
So.
All right.
One more thing about the gloves, and George or maybe Nate, you can answer this, but apparently there's an abundance of gloves available through the automotive. You know, the gloves that the guys use, the disposable gloves that they use to do mechanical work. Is that functional?
Those are functional. Yeah, and Bobby, I was going to call you because there's things in your industry that we're missing out of our industry. So I'm going to call you later because you've got access through the automotive aftermarket to things people are forgetting about. Okay, so we'll talk because I think you might be a source for the group as well, not only on gloves, but what about dust masks? What have you got?
No, we're having a problem with those as well.
Are you? Okay.
And by the way, I haven't changed my name. This is from the studios of my son, Bobby Gonzalez.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Robert.
Robert or Gons.
I see it says Bobby. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's my son. It's his setup.
Well, with that being said, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to collaborate in a lot of different ways, whether it be supply chain, circumvention, whether it be safety plans and procedures, whether it be just talking about the future and what it holds for us as an industry and trying to get ahead of the curve here a little bit. I think there's a lot of room for all of us to work together. So I appreciate those that were on the call today who helped out, who've been talking to me over the last 2 weeks, helping to do all kinds of different stuff. This is really the power of the execs in situations like this. So I'm eternally grateful to so many people in this group. I'm available for any phone calls if you guys have additional questions and you want to take this offline. And I just scratched the surface of some of the interesting things I've come across, but there's a lot more to this. I can talk all day on just cleaning products and what's the right stuff to use. So with that being said, does anybody have any final questions before we move on here?
Well, I just want to say Scott Bedford's acrylic guards are pretty good. We ordered a couple of them for a couple of different stores, and they absolutely do the job if you have some cashiers or some other areas, and they're quick and deliver them right away. So thanks.
Thank you, Carmine, for that.
Someone just asked, will this PowerPoint be made available? I will make it available.
Yeah.
Yep. We will link it to the website today. John, do you have a closing quote for everybody?
I sure do. You know I do. First, let me just thank everybody, Nate, Jim, George, Gons, and Carmine. It's a great thing you're doing, pre-cleaning everybody's vehicle. That's money you're never going to get back. It's a good thing. Thank you. Closing quote. You thought dogs were hard to train? I look at all humans who can't sit and stay.